Good morning, all. I think we are missing some students that I think they are arriving. And so good morning, Laura. Good morning to all the participants, those who arrived today and those also who came yesterday. And hopefully you will come also tomorrow. And today I'm Gabriele Dell'Anno from Vision Think Tank. And I will be very brief. Today we have 3 plenary in the morning. We have more precisely measuring less, measuring better, the challenge of sustainability and security for global trade, and how to make the world insurable again. Then this afternoon, we will have 3 problem-solving setting group in partnership with SEBRI on agri-food, energy transition, and loss and damage. That will be an input that will be for COP30 in Brazil next month. And in the late afternoon, we will have a session on artificial intelligence and on the future of automotive sector. So I don't want to be too long. Laura, I don't know if you want to add something. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day, our first full day together. I just wanted to say a few words as media partner of this event. So the conversation's been working informally with Vision for quite some time, but as the media partner on 2 of the most recent conferences, and it's a very rewarding partnership for us. We're an organization that puts evidence at the heart of every single article that we publish. Our goal is to produce content that is consumed by the widest possible audience, but is very much grounded in evidence. So to be amongst you at a moment where you're producing evidence, where you are focusing on problem solving, is a very rewarding thing for us to be involved with. And we hope that the partnership continues for a very long time. There's obviously a very difficult political climate out there, but in terms of journalism, climate journalism is truly one of the most creative sectors of journalism at the moment. It's one of the most important sectors for mainstream media outlets. They are committed to this type of work. They are hiring new journalists all of the time. Some of the best thinking around how to engage people with problems and with solutions is happening amongst climate journalists. So while we are obviously talking at a time when we are concerned about the future, there is a little glimmer of hope, I think, in newsrooms around the world. So if you have any thoughts on climate journalism, Rachel and I are around to discuss them with you over the next few days. Rachel's waving there. Have a great day, everyone.
Antonella and everybody. By the way, you forgot, Gabriele, that we will also have a speech by the executive director of the Loss and Damage Fund. And Antonella, you can even briefly say what is he going to talk, very briefly. But now the floor is yours, Alexandra. You call the discussion.
Yes. Whoops. Hi, good morning, everyone. And yeah, I'm glad to see you all here. I hope the room will still get a little more crowded because we have a really important topic that we talk about this morning. We'll talk about metrics. And the title is a little bit provocative. It's measure less, but measure better. And me being from the media industry, it's actually a topic that is from my heart. And I guess it's a topic from the heart of many people who work in different industries, because metrics are so important. And they're not only important for compliance and regulation, because they're also important to measure if your company is future-proof. And that's why we have also participants or discussants from the financial sector, because particularly the financial sector has to make sure that a company is visionary, imaginative, forward-looking, and future-proofs their businesses, because otherwise you will be out of business too. But metrics also have another function, not only keeping track of progress, which is important. And if you find a company or an organization that doesn't keep metrics, you can be pretty sure that there's greenwashing involved, because you need to have metrics that measure progress. but they're also great to motivate people, because people love progress. People love to be on the winning team. People want to see that there's something moving and that they work for an organization that is making progress. So metrics are actually a great motivator. My experience in the news industry also says, though, that you really need actionable metrics, metrics that everyone in the organization understands and can make sense of. So the more complicated it gets, the less people really make sense of it, and the more likely they are to find a workaround or to ignore metrics. And so the advice is, don't make it too complicated, because then it will just be an administrative burden, and that it will not lead you anywhere. And also, you need to really sort of experiment. Francesco mentioned that last night, that experimentation is so important, because your first set of metrics will usually not be the best one. You have to sort of test metrics, because all metrics have unintended consequences, side effects. Sometimes they contradict each other. So it's really, really important to gain experience. And I'm very happy to have this great panel here with experienced contributors, discussants. We'll have Antonella Baldini, Managing Director of the Istituto di Credito Sportivo, who will give the introduction. And then we have three discussants: Elena Flor, the head of the ESG steering from Intesa Sanpaolo, Taube van Melkebeke, head of policy at the Green European Foundation, and Patricia Celia, head of large caps and investment vehicles at Euronext. They will be the discussants. So Antonella, the floor is yours, and also please feel free to sit down here. Would you like to do? Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Alexandra, for your kind introduction, and good morning, distinguished guests and friends. First of all, let me express my sincere appreciation to the organizer for this fourth conference on climate change and sustainability. And actually, returning from the board of the loss and damage held in Manila last week, and also looking ahead to the COP30 in Belém, I see really our time here in Venice today as a bridge connecting emblematic site in the global fight against climate change. So this summit offers, in our view, a timely and a unique opportunity to reflect on how we as development financiers, policymakers, think tanks, and the private sector can address the profound challenges of climate change. And in this spirit, I bring the perspective of the Istituto per il Credito Sportivo e Culturale, very long, or ICSC, one of the few public development banks in the world with a mandate to promote social cohesion, equity, inclusion, and sustainable growth through finance and investment in sport and culture. So when we speak about sustainability and climate change, sport and culture are really part of the conversation. I would say they are indeed the missing pillar. And however, far more than mere expression of identity and community, these are sectors that sit at the very nexus of global economic, social, and environmental priority issues, ranging from social inclusion, education, health, gender equality, women's empowerment, to innovation, green infrastructure, and sustainable urban development. So let me really sincerely thank Francesco Grillo for his vision in seeing this nexus. So sport and culture as enabler, key enabler of multiple SDGs or strategic lever, and increasingly a viable asset class in social infrastructure. So as a public development bank, we look at sport and culture, of course, from a specific perspective, For almost 70 years, our bank has worked with local authorities, businesses, and sport institutions, and more recently with cultural institutions, guided by two key principles: to mobilize financial resources where and when they are most needed, acting as a catalyst for public and private partnership, and promote and implement a culture of impact measurement as a prerequisite for evidence-based and impact-driven policies. So we combine a public mandate with a market-oriented approach. In this way, our bank bridges the gap between the public and the private intervention, between the public interest and, if you want, the market risk appetite. And blending is the name of the game. So pooling resources from the public sector and attracting private investing stores, providing patient capital with a clear focus on maximizing long-term economic and social impact. So sustainability as a guiding principle is our strategy. In our strategy, enhance our ability to combine short-term issues with long-term, medium and long-term perspective. So within this framework, our bank actively supports projects in that advance energy transition and address climate change issue through initiatives including the financing of urban regeneration, decarbonization, promoting, as an example, energy efficiency and low-impact infrastructure that cut emission and reduce costs for community, and sustainable mobility, supporting projects that combine sport and culture, environment and territory, expanding access while protecting cultural and natural heritage. So we are all aware that bringing our mission to fruition, of course, requires more than financial resources. It demands new tools to align investment with measurable economic, social, and environmental outcome. And this is why in 2023, we launched the innovative Delta platform, a tool designed to assess the expected impact of every financial request submitted to the bank. These represent an integral component of our evaluation process, complementing the traditional risk and return analysis, and is based on two key assessments. The effectiveness of each project in generating positive outcome, and this is measured by the Social Return on Investment Index, and the non-financial risk expressed in terms of ESG ratings. The platform thereby enables us to quantify the delta, I mean the incremental value related to each project capacity to generate a multiplier effect. After 2 years of operation, we have processed over 1,300 projects worth over 1.6 billion euro. This number, I think it's increasing because this is a figure we have at last June, end of June. And the evidence is compelling. See, for 1 billion euro of the project that we have processed, 6.6 billion euro in social benefits. So an average of 4.3-fold social return on investments at portfolio level, and generally low ESG profile, risk profile, except for some environmental challenges that still require more effort to steer a robust transition. Think as an example of swimming pools or ski resorts facing high energy and water consumption and reduced snow availability. So this is a story of the impact financing, a tool, a methodology, a perspective, driving our daily work in Italy, of course, but also inspiring our engagement at international level in climate finance through different international fora. So first of all, I want to mention the coalition for sustainable development through sport, which is an alliance launched at the Financing Commons Summit in 2020 and currently co-chaired by Italy. I mean, our institution is co-chairing this alliance together with France and Japan, with the aim of mobilizing resources promoting innovative financial instrument and also sharing impact tools and methodologies. Second initiative in international agenda is our engagement within the G7, where the theme of sport for sustainable development was introduced for the first time under the leadership of the Italian presidency in 2024. Excuse. And the G7 development ministries endorsed the importance of defining coherent and harmonized impact assessment methodologies and tools. And lastly, during the first Olympism 365 summit, Sport for the Better World, which was organized last June by the International Olympic Committee. And in this occasion, our bank signed a memorandum of understanding with the IOC to share best practices in impact assessment. So there is a common thread in all this partnership to show that finance, sustainability, and impact are all part of the same story, and that together can generate real change from local to international level. And looking ahead to 2030, we envision a strategic evolution of our Delta platform across four main strategic pillars: monitoring and export evaluation, then environmental and ESG risk management, partnership and to co-create framework for sustainability and impact measurement, and international standard, promoting a global benchmark for sustainability and social impact, which is also a key enabler for innovative financial initiative like the Global Sport Impact Fund, which is currently under development. So with this vision in mind, I would say let's continue to shape the future by harnessing the power of sport and culture to deliver the real impact and build a more resilient, sustainable, and inclusive ecosystem for all. And I really look forward for our work today in seeing where this and our visionary agenda can take us. As Francesco said already, we will have this afternoon also Ibrahima Chekgyong, the executive director of the Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage. This is the correct name of the fund, which will intervene. And I think it's very interesting because we just had the board, last week, the 7th board, that was also the board where it was defined the first wave of the modality for the first wave of intervention. It will be announced officially at the COP30, but I think that Ibrahima will give us a broad idea of how it is this first phase, first wave of intervention will be structured. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Antonella. Just one more question, because the headline of this panel is measure less but better. Does that ring a bell for you? What would you say? What's your work? Is that going in that direction?
I would say yes, because the idea of Delta is this is the idea of Delta. So to really find the key element in the evaluation and support our client also in order to perform this evaluation and have a concrete idea of what is the impact of the initiative we are financially supporting.
Okay, so really zeroing in on the focus of this whole project. Thank you so much. And yeah, there's one more chair, right?
Thank you.
Sorry for making, yeah, on stage. Sorry, yeah, maybe. Anyway, so let me give the floor now to Elena. Elena Flor, Head of ESG Steering of Intesa San Paolo. The floor is yours. The floor is yours.
So, so thank you for the invitation and well, thinking about the title of the panel, I would like to make some comments first of all on our experience as a company, as a preparer, that we do need to report, and so we are subject to a number of obligations. I would also touch on the our experience as a financial institution. So looking at our clients, so what we ask to our clients in terms of ESG data, and also looking a bit at the future, what we expect is coming. So looking at our own experience, we have always been very committed to sustainability reporting. So we always had quite transparent reporting with a number of reports and documents, and not only so the regulatory ones, so that was the consolidated non-financial statement, but also a number of other information that were available to the public, in particular to all our stakeholders, but in particular looking at the market, investors, ESG investors, or investors looking also at ESG data. So very keen on having a number of information, and that is also that has also resulted in a very good positioning of Intesa San Paolo within the main sustainability indexes. That was linked, of course, to the performance, but also very much to the transparency with the market on our strategy, on our results, on our data. So what we have been doing lately, we have been implementing the CSRD. That was a huge effort, let's say, on our side, even coming from a very long history of sustainability reporting. CSRD was really a big change. Also from a lot of qualitative information, very specific data point, very prescriptive. So actually we had this very big project within the group to implement the regulation, and we came out with publishing the first CSRD report in March this year. What happened is that we realized that even with this new reporting, we still needed a lot of other information. And so we kept on both publishing the climate report that we used also to publish before that, with a specific focus on climate and environmental data, but also launched a new document, the SDG report, focusing more on the social side, but looking at the SDG as a comprehensive tool and also framework to look at to present our commitments. And so even with the implementation of the CSRD has not many data, not very quantitative, but we have other reports that provide to the market the kind of information that we used to provide them, so to also to be able to continue to be as transparent as we were in the past. So that is the evolution that we have seen with the introduction of the CSRD. It is now, let's say, work in progress. So we are now complementing the CSRD with some of the information already contained in the other documents, but it is a work in progress, and it's an evolution, and we are working actually on the 2025 document. And that is what is our experience as preparers of sustainability reporting. On the other side, we are also a financial institution, so we need sustainability data from our clients. That is important because, first of all, to mitigate ESG risks. So we needed to integrate into our processes, into our lending processes, all the ESG information. So looking at the counterparts, looking at the sector, looking at the kind of operation that we were structuring to mitigate risk. And this was the regulator that was asking us to integrate, in particular, climate and environmental issues within our risk management systems. And to do that, we needed data from our customers, but also not only to mitigate risks, but also looking at the opportunity side. We wanted to, in fact, support our clients in their sustainability strategy, to help them to set targets, to measure indicators, to look the process where they were going to. So it was very important for us. And we developed a number of financial solutions to support this kind of process. For example, specific financing for circular economy. We're very keen on circular economy as a group. We are partner of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. We launched earlier this year a loan to support companies along their decarbonization process, so providing a tool to measure CO2 emissions, giving favorable conditions for financing, helping them along the path, providing carbon credits to support these decarbonization process. So a whole range of financial solution, of ESG advisories, and to really support these. So this means that, of course, companies that have ESG data and can provide us with data, for us this is an advantage because we are able to track what is their positioning and how they are improving their sustainability profile. We developed internally an ESG score, like a sort of a rating agency, proprietary score. We didn't use the ESG ratings that were available on the market because usually they are only for listed companies. But our clients, of course, is much more than that. And now we have this ESG score on 250,000 counterparts. So also not only for large companies, but also for smaller companies, SMEs, and so forth. And of course, the more data we have directly from companies, and the less we need to rely on ESG data providers collecting data or estimates, the easier for us is really to have a direct conversation with our companies in that respect. So for us, it is important to have data. But going back to the title of the panel, Measuring Less, Measuring Better, we support the simplification process that was launched by at European level, particularly with the Omnibus earlier this year, to simplify the regulation, look at the CSRD reporting burden, but also at the taxonomy. Because in fact, as banks, looking at our client, we don't need many information. We need key information. So not many information, but really to be very focused on the key information that we need. But we need to balance it a little bit. So we also need to know that if we have less data, we will be less able to give incentives linked to this kind of profile, of this kind of attitude of companies. So there must be a balance between the simplification of data, but it is important for us also that not only the big companies, but also smaller companies are able and capable of providing elementary ESG data for us. Another aspect that I would like to mention is the fact that it is also important to have a stable regulation. This going and forward, back and forward, is a little bit disturbing because actually reporting needs investments. Investments you need to integrate into your IT systems, the kind of information you need to collect them, you need to have a system, have a whole process. So when you make the investments, it is not so easy to go back and to maybe to change a panel or the group of data that you would like to collect. So it is important for us to have a stable regulation so that we are sure that our investments, not only for us, of course, for all the companies that are investing in sustainability reporting, those are the data that we really want to. And the last comment would be on the to have also a common level playing field also with other parts of the world, taking into consideration that other parts of the world are making different choices. And so this is an investment, but also can be seen as a burden on this side of the ocean. So also to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elena. I think it's really an important point you made there to focus not only on risk, but also on opportunity, business opportunity. Just one quick question and a quick response. How did your clients react? Do they like it? Are they taking this up and working with it?
Yes, they are working with us. Of course, they need not only financing, but also a whole range of services. They need training. It's really a change in the culture, so they need training, they need services, they need tools. The tool I was mentioning to measure CO2 is a rather simple tool, but it's important for companies to know how they can measure these KPIs that are very important for banks.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll give the floor now to Taube van Melkebeke, who is from she's the head of policy at the Green European Foundation. And you already mentioned the omnibus effort to make things easier, and you will respond directly to that, I gather.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and good morning, everyone. Indeed, I will probably focus a bit on that, but I first want to take somewhat of a step back, also reflecting a little bit on the title around measuring better, which I obviously completely agree with, and measuring less, which I in some cases also agree with, but in some cases not that much. And so taking a step back and sketching a little bit the picture where we are, also maybe for people here that are not EU policy geeks or working in the financial and clean in this or industrial sector, we indeed have a very, I think, extensive package of regulation when it comes to corporate sustainability reporting, as well as due diligence and taxonomy, and it's part of the European Green Deal. In the last legislation, we had, as you all know, the announcement and the implementation already to some extent of the European Green Deal. And I think we need to, when we talk about these topics, really take into account how influential that has been. In 2019, 2020, when also globally there was a very positive atmosphere around that agenda. But I think it has been even more important in the last years, since 2022, with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but also in the current or in the last months, where we have indeed seen different parts of the world going in an absolutely completely different direction. And for me, if we would have not had the Green Deal, as well as the targets that are linked to that, we would be in a much worse position when it comes to protecting the climate and protecting climate action and the progress that we already have been making in the energy and more broadly the green transition. And in that sense, the kind of business part of it and the reporting part of it is absolutely key, because you can set targets, but if your businesses are not on board, it's not possible to deliver those. And so we have the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive that has been implemented indeed by some companies already, but it is not the whole scope is implemented yet. There is a very complicated regulation that I'm not going to go in the details of, but we are very much at the starting point. And I think that's something that we should not forget as well. We are at the starting point where indeed we can see already a lot of progress when it comes to putting in practice what the EU has been preaching. So we can see progress in the reporting where we go a bit from a greenwashing perspective of ESG, what has happened in the past, to a more consolidated and also concrete data-based implementation of green business conduct and social business conduct. But we also see, of course, issues still. But for me, it's very important that even though we see issues and even though there will indeed be changes necessary at some point, that we do not risk throwing away the baby with the bathwater. And that's, I think, what we're seeing now. I think the oftentimes left very opaque and technical topic of reporting has now been politicized in a way that doesn't really connect inputs and societal debate and also including all ranges of companies into the discussion, but has really gone into, I sometimes call it horse trading politics, where it's very fast and where there is indeed some loud voices from industry connected in the debate, but I feel like we need time to really understand where the mismatches sit and where maybe we need to improve the current legislation, but basing us on data, on real world examples, and also on a long-term vision. And that brings me a bit back to the current geopolitical context. For me, it's very clear the EU has a few opportunities to still really weigh on the society and the world that we create, and our implementation of how our businesses and our economy looks is, for me, the most important one. We only have about 5% of the population, but we still have 16% of GDP in the EU. And we have, of course, a lot of partnerships, import and exports, with the rest of the world. So the EU can basically indeed start to float a little bit now and take a bit of distance from the course that it had set 5, 6, 7 years ago. Or it can really, in my opinion, double down on it and also really maintain its role in setting global standards with partnerships. So I also will not push for a solely European approach, but I think EU needs to be very clear to also its potential partners what it can bring to the table, that it is also a trustworthy partner. And that brings me also to your point on the stability of regulation, not only for companies, but also, I would say, for other countries and other regions in the world. It is, to me, extremely important that the EU doubles down and stays a trusted, reliable and stable partner. For its competitiveness, this is also, I think, absolutely critical. I think one of the key issues that our business struggle with is, of course, the volatile and expensive or relatively expensive price of energy, and that connects immediately with strong standards when it comes to the transition and green climate sustainability directive. So for me, competitiveness is oftentimes an argument that is being brought up to indeed measure less. And I would really go against that point, because measuring just less and cutting down on what we have established now would just really put us back a couple of years, instead of really taking the opportunity of what we already have established and using the European legislation, but also the European businesses where they already have pushed or focused on their sustainability, and tap into that potential. There's a few other things that I wanted to say, and I don't know if we will go into a second round or if I have a little bit more. There's just a few data points that I brought as well, because in this debate, we often hear that this is against the will of businesses, but I also want to maybe highlight a few points here, which is that it is definitely not across the board. We have seen also quite a few open letters just yesterday by the Cambridge Institute of Sustainable Leadership, for example. There is a letter of 260 businesses that are really calling to stop the omnibus regulation and that are really calling to have a discussion, but take the time and to make sure that we enable the EU to build the global or maintain the global efforts towards net zero and sustainability. E3G, Climate and Energy Think Tank, conducted a survey of 1,500 companies where more than 2/3 of business leaders say that they believe that the EU and European companies should set a global example for sustainability standards in business practices. And only 10% disagree. So I feel that there is, oftentimes these voices are not really heard in the debate, but they are important, and they should, I think, get more say in the current discussions. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Taube. Just one question, because there are some people that say, and actually this is also the main gist of this conference here, that business is actually much further ahead than politics, and actually we are so far down the road already with implementing sustainability that actually it doesn't really matter the political backlash is there or not, because businesses are so much more advanced than actually the political side. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and I've been thinking about that quite a lot, because indeed there is a scenario where you don't need policy and you don't need politics to have strong reporting, and that is happening to some extent. But for me, that kind of misses the opportunity of the EU to also act as a whole and as a bloc, and to also create incentive structures, policy incentive structures that can go the extra mile. So I feel like there is a need for policy here, listening to businesses and basing itself on data. But to me, a scenario where businesses indeed kind of report on what they want, for some it's measuring more, for some it's measuring less. I think that's not ideal. What we have seen with the Green Deal, to me, there were two very strong blind spots. One was the social aspects, and another one was the missing out, or the lack of a clear clean industrial policy. Now we have the Clean Industrial Deal that was just launched, but for a clear industrial policy, we also need the data, and specifically these reporting standards and reports of companies are very, very important to gather that data and to therefore invest in European clean tech, in European companies more broadly. So that's a bit my thinking around that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And one person here who can really tell you a lot probably about what efforts business are making is Patricia. Patricia is here, head of large caps and investment vehicles at Euronext, because she kind of knows what's going on. So the floor is yours, Patricia.
Okay, thank you very much. And first of all, let me thank Vision for the invitation and for having Borsa Italiana and Euronext here today. For those of you who are not familiar with Euronext, Euronext is the biggest pan-European financial infrastructure operating capital markets in 7 countries in Europe, with more than 1,800 listed companies from more than 35 countries. So not only from France, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, but also from other international countries. And I will provide you a couple of numbers that are really interesting in the effort and commitment of our listed companies in reporting. But I wanted to start today with a clear message on the relevance that sustainability still play for financial markets, and in particular for the European financial markets. And I start with numbers. I work for a stock exchange, so I need to use numbers. In Q2 2025, 9 billion of net inflow still continue to fund investment funds in Europe, and in particular sustainable funds in Europe. Global sustainable fund assets still represent more than $3.5 trillion, and European funds under the ESMA guideline for ESG financial products represent more than 75% of the global allocation on sustainable funds. So here in Europe, sustainability is still a priority for financial markets, and it is still a priority because we are in a real major phase of our journey. Essentially, corporates already integrated their sustainability into their growth strategy, and that they really understood that they needed to mitigate risk in order to preserve their ability, their resilience, their competitiveness for the future. And on the other side, they are looking also at opportunities that the transition economy, opportunities that the new solution for capturing CO2, for providing solution in order to provide solution for climate change, adaptation, mitigation will generate for corporates. And here I will have also a couple of numbers that are interesting. So for investors in Europe, but also worldwide, and Elena Flor from Intesa Sanpaolo also mentioned a couple of numbers and also data that are relevant. Elena told us that ESG KPIs are relevant not only for ESG funds, but also for non-ESG funds, because also for non-ESG funds, today sustainability is a matter of competitiveness, resilience, and opportunities for generating revenues in the future, and of course value for investors and asset owners. So it is not a matter of reporting. It is not, at least for European companies, it is not a matter of reporting, because if from one side CSRD is now will be now applicable to a minor number, to a reduced number of corporates. On the other side, SFDR is still in place, and on the other side, investors and also banks, as mentioned by Elena and Flora, will continue to request to corporates numbers. On the other side, large corporates under CSRD will continue to request to their supply chain numbers and KPIs for the scope 3 emission, but more in general for their journey, for their transition plan, for their goals, or for their numbers that they have to justify for the ESG bonds that they have issued. So reporting is not something that is in discussion. What is in discussion, at least in financial markets, is the material relevance of KPIs. And this is something that I wanted to stress in particular with a number of data. If we look to our listed companies, and if we look in particular to those that already starting since 2020 report ESG data, we see that 1,550 listed companies for a total market cap of above 6.2 trillion euro already report KPIs on ESG, and collectively they report more than 96,000 data on ESG, and on average more than 50 indicators. So reporting is there, but on the other side, investors are saying us that there is a huge amount of data. And as mentioned by Elena again, there is a need for improving the flow of data directly for corporates to investors in order to make efficient the way investors collect data. Elena told us that there is a wide and diversified variety of data providers. And this is a huge effort for corporates, a huge effort for investors. And very often they spend more time in producing data, producing questionnaires, answering to rating providers, to index providers, in order to give them the possibility to provide structured product for investors or other services for investors. This is not efficient because corporates spend a lot of time in reporting, and investors spend a lot of time in collecting data and processing data. This is not efficient. This is not what the European need for the competitiveness of our corporates. And coming again, sorry, for probably I will anticipate a question of yours, but I want also to answer to your question to my previous colleague. I don't think we are in a sort of political backlash, at least here in Europe. But again, we are in a sort of mature phase. We want corporates to act. We don't want corporate to spend time to report, no, and to collect data. Again. And I want also to provide you a couple of numbers. We started to analyze the effort of our corporates in reporting, and they started in 2020 to report. And just for you, a couple of numbers, they already report also for the supply chain. And for example, from 2022 to 2025, we also saw an increase in the disclosure of Scope 3. So European companies already are really efficient. And coming back to investors, and here I wanted to mention in particular a couple of statements from BlackRock, so an American asset manager, the most important asset manager in the world. Last year, during the summer, there was a debate, at least here in Europe, about the reduction from asset managers in supporting corporates' proposal in the General Assembly related to ESG. Starting from that evidence, everybody, at least here in Europe, started to say, okay, we are in a backlash, investors are not interested in ESG anymore. No, if you look at the 2024 Investment Stewardship Voting Spotlight published by BlackRock and available on the website, you will find a couple of comments that are really interesting. They said most shareholder proposal on climate and natural capital issues, as well as company impacts on people, were overreaching, lacking economic merit, or sought outcomes that were unlikely to promote long-term shareholder value. Okay, so again, investors are optimizing their portfolio in terms of risk return, and are optimizing their promise for LPs, so for all of us, investing in pension scheme, investing in insurances, in terms of providing us return that are also managing risk from our portfolio. And they want companies to focus on risk that need to be mitigated. But if risks are already mitigated by companies, of course, the companies are not needed to invest, to spend money to continue to mitigate if they are already mitigated. Or again, looking at the long-term opportunities, corporates have to invest in real opportunity. Again, Elena mentioned the circular economy, but also we are on this side of the Mediterranean Sea, and just a couple of kilometers from here, we have the example of Ravenna, that is the most important European solution for carbon capture storage and carbon capture and storage solution provided by ENI and SNAM. So corporates are already investing, are already mitigating, and are already looking for opportunities. We are not in a backlash, at least from our point of view, but we are in a real mature phase where investors and corporates now need to focus on material action.
Thank you so much, Patrizia. Just one more question I have, because you said that that actually the flow of data needs to be improved. Do you think there are opportunities in automation, artificial intelligence solutions to really help advance that? And we will hear more about AI solutions later on today.
Of course, this is already in place. Last year, as a stock exchange, we have a program of education for all of our stakeholders. And we usually, and this afternoon, for example, we'll have with us Impact SIM, that is an asset manager, that will share with us the way they act. And usually we share with our community best practices. Last year, we shared a best practice from Generali. Generali is the biggest pan-Italian, but pan-European and global, and the global also insurer. And they told us that they already apply artificial intelligence data and in general data analysis to ESG KPIs. But what was mentioned by Elena is not only the need to analyze and use data, but also the need to rationalize the variety of providers that provide data for corporates. And that is a cost in order to buy data from many providers. For sure, we have the possibility to work in a technology solution in order to improve the direct flow from corporates to investors, because there is the non-efficient process in this moment for managing data and KPIs from corporates.
Mhm. Thank you so much. And the room has filled up nicely, and we have about 10 more minutes. Are there any questions from the audience? Now you're shocked, right? Yeah, okay.
My question is related
Do we have a mic? No. Yes, we do. See? Ha. There's support.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Riccardo Parrini, CEO of Nest Companies, a company involved in blockchain system for notarization of information and, let's say, against greenwashing activities, and in order to try to put responsibility to declarations. And my question is related to the greenwashing, because if the data for European Commission is that one product out of two, so the 50% of the products are based on greenwashing, or the declaration cannot be really proved and verified. So, and we know now that the market is having a lot of problems, and that material coming from outside Europe, recycled materials are very expensive compared to virgin materials. So we know that this number probably is higher. And I think, knowing many industries, that a lot of data related to ESG and companies, they cannot be really verified, and many are not true, because there is a very basic problem. There is a there are false information in the entrance in the market. So if I put a shoe in the market telling that is a shoe that has several characteristics, and then we find out that there was a worker paid €2 per hour doing this shoe, we lose one of the most important things, that is the trust. I think that the trust is the basis in order to push and enable sustainability, really. And so my question is related to the trust. How can we trust the data that people are writing inside of the documents for the ESG? Also because the brand owner are the first one that are punished by the greenwashing, because they are doing greenwashing not because they want to do the greenwashing, but because there is not a full control of the supply chain. So now there will be the new due diligence directive and so forth. So it's very complex. But if we enter inside of the industry, it's a big problem, and everybody get a disruption, really, from the greenwashing, from banks to everybody in the value chain. So thank you.
So Patricia wants to respond.
Yes, I can provide a concrete example on financial products, and probably I will pass the floor to the other colleagues for green claim. I'm not an expert of green claim, but for financial products, we recently saw a first launch of a ESG bond by Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, the Italian National Promotional Agency, where they are tracking the investments they are doing with their ESG bond, so a project bond, thanks to DLT so a blockchain solution, in order to provide that trust and that transparency to investors. So from a financial market point of view, we are already working on solution, and in particular, we are already using the DLT technology in order to track the information and the data on how corporates issuing project bond, and in particular ESG project bond, are investing money and are compliant in what they are saying in terms of ESG financial products.
Okay, Taube and then Antonella.
Yes, this is one of our major concern. And actually, we also issued a social bond in January. We received the demand was 6 times the initial offer. So testifying that there is a great interest in this kind of asset. At the same time, we feel very much, I mean, this challenge of greenwashing and generally speaking, I mean, the correct measurement. This is why we are working also in this international fora in order to establish international standard and align our methodologies, because there is also a problem of alignment of methodologies. What we do is that we try to assist our client in providing information, because this is also very important. There is a different perception also from the client side in order to provide about, I mean, information they have to provide. The way you have to interpret also several variables. It's not just, I mean, to give information, but also is to guide for us the client in order to provide the correct information. And then one of the development we are working on is the monitoring and the ex post evaluation in order to have all the process I would not say under control. We are far from it, but I think that also this culture of measurement is a process. It's something that we have to work on, align methodologies, and also create a culture of measurement, which is not. I think this is one of the weakness of our system at the moment that can, I mean, also result in a greenwashing or a non-correct, I mean, information. So this is really our commitment, also in collaboration with other like-minded institutions, in order to have methodologies which also with a simplifying also simplification is also one of the key in order to reduce, I mean, this kind of effect, a negative effect on our evaluation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Taube, and then I think we need to come to an end here, but
I think it's a really important question, and I'm also not an expert in green claim directive, but as you know, there are of course also regulations that are looking into these issues. But to me, the question also kind of highlights the issue really at hand here. I mean, the examples that both of you mentioned are really great, and I think super important to see that there's really good things happening. At the same time, for me, there's an issue of leaving that up completely to the market, because you also risk then that indeed greenwashing remains a competitive advantage for some companies that are not interested in going into that direction. And so that brings us back also to the current pushback, because I do believe that there's a political pushback on the regulation that we have in place, where for me it is not about making sure that we simplify it to really the core, but that we rather have the tools at hand, and that we also support companies in this reporting. I used to work in the Belgian government, and there, whenever there were big reforms at European level, government can apply for technical support, which was delivered by the EU. I feel like maybe there is a way there as well. Why doesn't that exist? Because there's these big changes that are happening in our economy and for businesses I feel like the support, the clear methodologies, roadmaps, etc., that also smaller companies in this case can use. But while keeping, I think, the data as clear as possible and as correct also as possible is something for me that we really cannot step away from. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. We need to wrap up here unless, Francesco, you want to like break the schedule here because you had some request also. You had a question? No.
No, I just
He wants to.
very briefly connect with one of the proposal, one of the most important proposal that our other platform for problem solving on the Europe of the future produced 3 or 4 months ago in terms of how to amend radically the approach that the European Commission is having to corporate sustainability directives, the green claim regulation, etc. And the idea there was to very much leverage on something that probably explain what Patrizia was saying. Investor, even more consumers, do like firms that pollute less, or that create less harm. But in order to do that, we need to have indicators that are very few, key performance indicators in a sense, and which are understandable. So people need to understand what we are talking about. It's not just a question of fakeness, it's a question of opaqueness. No, it's not clear. No, so it's too many. And the approach can be to move from compliance to an endless list of things you need to do, which are not even measurements, are just, you tick box, to something where, in fact, the European Commission or some agency of the European Commission tries to assess raters, data providers, which is completely different. So that I at least focus on the very few raters of sustainability that can, with some trust, tell people what is right and what is wrong. And in fact, this could be even a business for Intesa Sanpaolo and banks, because they are accumulating a sort of knowledge. So use market to correct markets instead of endless regulation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Francesco. And I'm really sorry we have to come to an end now because this is really such an interesting discussion and debate. And what you just said is so important, as I also said in the beginning, metrics need to be understandable and actionable, because only then, when people can understand them, that builds trust. Also, what we need is not only risk assessment, but opportunity. That's what you emphasized, and predictability for businesses to really be able to invest. And yeah, I really encourage you all to pick up the conversation in the break with our wonderful panel and give them a big hand, big applause for these contributions and for making it here. And thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I just, because we said 11 and then I said